Hey, what is up, my YouTubian subscribers? Secure here to do my discussion video on Ruby's chapter 3 basically up until Lost. Okay, Ruby Volume 6, pretty much second half of the entire volume. Why haven't I done a video? Well, one, work. Two, I haven't been the biggest fan. These episodes have been good, but they haven't been stellar. The problem is a lot of the problems stem from the fact that they're not willing to pull the trigger with Osmond. They're not willing to make him a bad guy. Well, or not even just not a bad guy, just a genuinely asshole of a character. They're not willing to play him like Harry Potter played Dumbledore at the end of the series. That Dumbledore was a good person, but making bad decisions because someone needed to make those bad decisions. They don't play that. They want us to believe that this 1,000-year-old multi-incarnate freaking dude is a good person, and that every decision he's made was for the betterment of humanity. And yeah, there are problems. Nikos is just the first and most major example. The fact that they're not willing to fully commit to telling Pyrrha's story correctly anymore is the problem. The fact that you have two opportunities. You had one in Lost in Fables and Lost Fables, which is the Salem backstory episode. You had a potential chapter there where you could have, instead of telling Salem's backstory, you tell Osmond's shady history and that he sacrificed former maidens and potential maidens to the sharks, and then ending with Nikos. You had that potential right there, and then they wasted it. Why? Because Salem's backstory really should have been Cinder asking Jin what is being hidden from her, and then we get the Salem backstory there. It would be more emotionally impactful for Cinder, and it would be more just narratively important for Cinder to hear that than Team RWBY. Because really, the end of the day, it boils down to the last 10 seconds of that entire episode. The Osmond is hiding the fact that Salem's invincible, and yeah, that's a problem. Yep. Sorry, I'm just really frustrated right now because that was a good chance to really develop Osmond as a guy who makes the shitty decision because he has to. The guy who puts on the gloves and grabs the pile of shit because somebody has to make that decision, and they didn't do it. Next up, the Brunswick Farm stuff. Brunswick Farm was a waste of time. Pretty much nothing in the Brunswick Farm matters in the long scheme of things. And what does matter, things like Crow's alcoholism, that was happening whether it be in Argus or whether it be started in Brunswick Farm. So the apathy, first off, the people who are misconstruing what happened with the apathy doesn't frickin' make the person. It isn't making frickin' Crow and Weiss and Yang. It isn't making them act like that. That's not apathy. That's them being depressed and them being negative. The apathy was literally the only important line in the entire Brunswick Farm episodes, is that I'm tired. Why? Because the apathy literally is just that, apathy. It literally drains the person's will to move, and that's all it does. It wasn't the thing that was driving Weiss questioning Oscar. It was, or Ozpin at this point. It wasn't. None of that was that. Weiss was already questioning going home to Atlas before the apathy, so none of that is important. Really, yeah, it was a waste of 2 episodes in the grander scheme of thing. Maybe if the apathy comes back, it won't matter. But yeah, for as of right now, those 2 episodes were worthless. The when they reach Argus, worthless episode. Other than one kind of cute moment where Team RWBY and Team Juniper reunite, and it's the odd man couples. It's like Ren hugging Yang and stuff like that, and Blake hugging Jean. That was the single best thing about that episode. Other than that, shit. Then we get to arguably the worst moment in the volume: Tweedledum, Tweedledee, and frickin' the old lady in the boot. Stupid scene. It pushes a negative stereotype of people who are patriots, people who love their country too hard. It's the most left-leaning scene in the entire volume. There's nothing wrong with being a patriot. There's nothing wrong with being a nationalist. It's when you push to white nationalism. It's when you push to those evil ideologies that yeah. So the idea that they're gonna push a patriot as a white nationalist, or the equivalent of a white nationalist, not so good to me. Other than that, yeah, it was kind of that scene was bad. Jean confronting Ospen was bad or Oscar, because Ospen's a bitch who won't come out of Ospen's head, or Oscar's head. Yeah, not good. Not good at all. Why? Because again, it fails to address the core problem with Ospen, and it was that he fed one of their friends to the sharks without reason. Especially with them knowing that if they know that Raven is the Spring Maiden, then they need to question why Pyrrha was even in the running for being a maiden. That alone is the biggest issue with Jean confronting Ospen. It's not about the fact that Salem's invincible. That's less important for the characters. Yeah, it's important for us as viewers of the show that we know that Salem's invincible, but it's not important for the characters who are dealing with Ospen's lies. Moving forward to Lost now. Why? Because this is the single best episode of the volume, and it's arguably one of their best character episodes. Why? Because it helps move Emerald into a position where she can be face turned pretty easily if they want to go that route, which it looks like they're gonna go that route due to the narrative in this episode and how they interacted with one another. And by that I mean, Emerald basically complains that the only reason she's even with Salem's faction is because she loves Cinder. That Cinder was a parent to her. Cinder was a potential lover. Cinder was whatever Cinder was to Emerald. She was the most important person to Emerald, and that she never had a family. That Cinder gave her a sense of family. Okay, now we go to Juniper stuff, and you're gonna learn why. And it's because Team Juniper is a family. They're a functional family that loves each other and it supports each other, even when Jean is questioning whether he's gonna go with Ruby to Atlas or not. He was this close. And then we get to the most heartbreakingly somber scene in the entire volume so far. And it's Jean stumbles upon a statue of Pyranikos. And as he stumbles upon this, he is it's a song. It sounds to be a good song. It's basically Jean lamenting that he never got a chance with Pyrrha. That he loved Pyrrha, but he never got a chance with her because life got in the way. And it's and then you hear it. You hear Jen Taylor. You hear Pyrrha say, "It's beautiful, isn't it?" And I was like, "No, please, please." And I'm happy they didn't bring her back, but man, when you see Pyrrha's mother and you hear Jean and her talk about Pyrrha and how Pyrrha, at the end of the day, Pyrrha was a huntress, and Jean finally accepts that Pyrrha went up to that castle or that tower with the full knowledge that she wasn't coming out of it alive. And Jean accepts that, and now he can finally move on. And I don't mean with another partner, I don't mean with a romantic partner, I'm saying just as a person. Everything that has built up to this moment, that freaking out on Cinder, listening to Pyrrha's tape, all of that finally comes to a head, and this is the resolution Jean needed as a character to move on to his next major story arc. And oh my god, it was good. It was worth all of the bullshit they've done to Jean. It was worth it for this moment. Finally, the episode ends with Oscar returning to the group. He fully admits that, he's going to eventually just become Ospen. And whatever, he'll fight with them until he becomes Ospen. And that was a little bit sudden. It was a little bit abrupt. Especially because it looked like he was having a kind of meltdown of his own. Other than that, yeah. So, one more thing before I sign off. Halo Classic tournament is coming up. It's Halo 3. If you're a fan of Halo 3, back in the day, we're getting some old Halo pros coming to this classic event. We're getting a status quo roster with Flamesword, Neighbor, Ace, and Assault, which is an insane roster for Halo 3 if they turn up and look anything like they did in Halo 3. We're getting a God Squad of Roy, Lunchbox, Snipedown, and Pistola, which may not mean much to you guys because you're RWBY fans, but yeah. We're moving on. We're really, it's good stuff. Yeah. January 11th to 13th. So if you're not doing anything that weekend, come check out the stream. Uh, I'll probably put a video up closer to the event where I talk about it a little bit and how excited I am. But yeah, just come check it out. Like, comment down below. Security signing off.